name is Tucker and this is Auto Scribe, and today we're going to be having a video about things to look for in your first car, so stay tuned for more. Today we're going to talk about the things you should look for when you buy your first car. Now, there's obvious things like reliability, which we'll talk about a little first. You have maintenance cost, fuel economy, potential to trade in for when you are ready to upgrade, so a car that essentially holds its value in the long run. And, you know, looks has got to be a big part of it too. In other words, don't buy a Prius. So, we'll start with reliability. When you're looking to buy a car and you're looking for a reliable car, most people think, let's see, when they're thinking about, you know, like sedans and coupes, a cheaper, reliable car, Toyota and Honda, seems to be the best two brands. And, like, right now we're sitting in a 2016 Toyota Corolla. My fiance's car. Very, very reliable car. These things, it's hard to kill them. It really is hard to kill them. Same thing with a Honda. Like, my aunt, she had a 2003 Honda Civic that she put 400,000 miles on and it was still kicking. She just wanted a new one. She actually tried to wait till the car quit before she bought a new one, and it never quit. So she just eventually was like, screw it, I'm going to buy a new car. And she just went and got a new Honda Accord. But as far as reliability goes, you know, you're looking at how often do you have to maintain the vehicle, for one. And you want something that, you know, other than the usual oil changes, filters, stuff like that, you don't have to do that much to the car. When you're driving it, you know, you want to be able to put 100-something thousand miles on it before you have to change anything serious, like a water pump, which, you know, really isn't. It's serious to the car, but it's not a big maintenance fix. It's easy to do. You know, but you don't want, at 100,000 miles, you don't want your engine to start misfiring and blow a head gasket. That's just not something you want in a car. And there are some cars that are like that, and I'll probably do, you know, 5 worst cars for beginners and the 5 best cars for beginners. Because there are some cars that more experienced people, it's fine for them because they know how to fix it themselves. But if you don't know anything about cars, there are some cars that you just want, you know, for the average guy that just wants to get in and drive the thing. And every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, you know, take it and get the oil changed and the filters replaced. And there's cars for that too, like a Corolla. Corolla's fun to drive. It's pretty fast. It's decently fast. It could use a little more of a speed boost, but you know, a Corolla and a Civic, they're great, reliable cars. I would highly recommend those two if you're going for a car standpoint. And I'll do a truck video later because I've had a lot of trucks as well. But the second thing we're going to go over, you know, cost to own the car. Obviously, you have the purchase point. And for your first car, most, you know, like parents, they try to stay like 10 grand and below. That's how mine did it anyway. And there's lots of really good cars you can get for the up to $10,000 price range. I mean, you can get this 2016 Corolla with 60,000 miles on it for right at $10,000, which is great. That's a great deal, in my opinion. Because you're getting a great car, great value, and the cost to own a Corolla is relatively cheap. Like, she's only got about 40,000 miles on her car, but the only thing she's had to do to it is change the oil. That's pretty good. That's, in my opinion, that's pretty good, and I'm sure it'll go many, many more thousands and thousands and thousands of miles before anything serious has to be done to the car. And then there's some cars, like I had a Mercury Cougar that just had all sorts of problems. Transmission was going out. It wouldn't shift into third gear. It went from second straight to fourth, which was interesting to say the least. If you were driving on a, you know, free road and you wanted to floor it, it'd go 1, 2, boom, and shake real bad. Hoses had holes in them just from wear, and that car had when I bought it, it had right around 100,000 miles on it. About 120, 130. And I didn't put that many on it, and all those problems were happening. But you gotta look at that when you're buying a new car too. If you're not going to buy a brand new car and you're trying to stay in the $10,000 or less price range, you absolutely have to have a mechanic check your car out. And, you know, say you're buying it from, say you get on Craigslist today and you find a, let's say for example, a pretty good, nice, real nice car. Say you find like a 04 BMW. You can get those for under 10 grand. They're real good too. And, you know, the guys had it priced at $4,500, which, depending on the miles, that's a pretty low price. But when you ask him, you know, can we take it to my mechanic and let him, you know, give it the once over, give it the rundown, make sure everything's good, make sure nothing serious is already broken. If he says no, walk away. It's always better to have a mechanic look at your car before buying it, just to eliminate the risk that something is already wrong with it. But, you know, other costs to own things, you know, like how much do the parts cost? Like a Toyota, Honda, they're not that expensive to fix. But, you know, you get something like a Mercury, which, you know, it's just a Ford, but some of the parts that were Mercury specific are harder to find because Mercury's no longer in business. So you have to look at stuff like that. Tire cost, like the tires on my old car cost me about $800 to get the cheap tires from Walmart for all four, and on this car it cost less than $400, and this is the Corolla, to put all four brand new tires on. So you have to look at stuff like that as well. Another thing you want to look at is fuel economy. Now, to some people this may not be a big deal. Like to me, I want it to be decent, but I don't have to have a car that gets 50 miles to the gallon. I don't drive that far. And when I do drive that far, it's not very often. So a car that gets 18 is fine for me. I mean, granted, it is nice to have one you can fill up. Like my Cougar, I only drove like 4 miles to go to work before, so I fill the thing up once a month, and that's outstanding. But, you know, in the same retrospect, I only drove 4 miles to work every day. I could have had a car that got 2 miles to the gallon with a big enough gas tank. I could have filled it up once a week. So you have to look at that depending on what you are. And for bumper-to-bumper traffic, look for the one that has higher city mileage, because, you know, some of them, like this Corolla, it's supposed to get 30 city, 35 highway, which means if you're somewhere crowded, you're only going to be getting the city or lower, because highway is just big open road. You're not having to stop and go. So you have to look at that. You have to look at that when you factor in fuel economy as well. Another fuel economy thing too is, you know, I know a lot of people don't factor this in the fuel economy, but you have to look at how much the fuel filters cost and the fuel pumps and everything. I can factor all that. That's regular maintenance as well, but you can factor it into fuel economy too, because it has something to do with the fuel if you just want to. See, another thing you need to look for is buying your first car. Went over maintenance, cost to own, reliability. You have to look at the parts. Like, for example, this 2016 Corolla, head gasket blows, I can get it fixed for right at $300 if I buy the part, which naturally I buy all my parts unless it comes straight from a Toyota dealer, which I really never go to dealers because they're more expensive than anybody else. But they will do the work right. So let's just say $500 head gasket, or all the head gaskets, because I ain't paying that for one head gasket. I can do it myself. But for my old truck I had, it was like $2,000 almost to get the head gaskets replaced, because it was an older truck for one, and they just didn't make that many parts anymore. But, you know, you get a car where there's a lot of them on the road, the parts are going to be cheaper, which in turns would make the insurance cheaper. Insurance is a big deal too. And if you get anything sport, your insurance is going to go higher, so you take that into factor too. Like my insurance on the Cougar was $52 a month, just liability, but on the truck it was like $30. So you have to look at stuff like that. Factor in parts, factor in engine maintenance, how often, what kind of oil it uses, see how expensive that is. There's lots of things. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about for this video, now I'll probably go into more detail with this in another video, but you have to have style. Now, it's not a big deal to some people, but if you're a car guy or girl, because there are some car girls, you care what the car looks like. And there are some cars, Prius, that are just ugly as sin. I mean, why would they even make a car that looks like that? And think, I just want to know the designer's thoughts. I mean, I get it, Priuses get outstanding gas mileage, but then again, the cost of fixing one is absolutely ridiculous. My future mother-in-law has a Prius, and everything on that car, if something breaks, everything she has to buy for it breaks the bank as well. And they are just not pretty cars. I want to know what the designers were thinking when they said, they drew out the concept and were like, you know what? This right here is a damn good looking car. Let's make it. I just want to know who did that and if they still work there, because, I mean, obviously it was successful. There's lots of Priuses on the road, but the looks has nothing to do with that. Trust me. The looks have nothing to do with why people like a Prius, but, you know, style, like, I like the model Corolla I'm in. I like it. I think it's too egg-shaped. Really, I think it should be longer, but that's why I have a Camry. But I don't like the Camry with the Corolla front bumper, if you know what I'm saying. So, you know, I think style has a lot to do with it. And I like older cars, like 60s Camaros, GTOs. But I also like some of the newer cars. Like, my dream car is a Porsche 911. I just love the way it looks. And I like a lot of the supercars, but I think some of the cheaper cars now, but if you know, some of them are doing good. Like the new 2018 Camry concept looks outstanding for a regular person car. And now even Hondas are starting to look a little badass. If you know, you can make fun of me for that if you want to, but if you look at them compared to what they used to be, Hondas are starting to look good. And, you know, to me, that's a good thing. You know, you can make cheaper cars and get the same style as you would, you know, a more expensive car. Now, when I say more expensive car, you know, I'm setting the highest price one that I would say is cheap would be 50 grand. And it's still pushing it for cheap. It's not cheap, but it's not yet up there in the, well, I'm going to call for my videos the power class. And then we'll have another class for like the supercars, Lamborghinis, and stuff like that. Because obviously we have to talk about Lamborghinis. This is a car channel. But in hindsight, style is important. And I think your car, in a way, represents who you are once you actually, you know, not when you first get it, obviously, maybe a little bit. But if, you know, your parents buy you a car and you have no choice in the matter, then obviously that's not true. But if you pick out your first car and you get to customize it the way you want to, I think a car can have a great reflection on who you are as a person. And you know what? I don't think it matters, and you have to think, it doesn't matter how much money your car costs. If your car costs you $800 and you customize it the way you want it, and in total you only have $3 grand in a car, and you love it, that is just as good as having a Lamborghini and loving it. I mean, it's emotional connection between you and the machine that you have built and loved and put blood and sweat and tears into and money. And so, you know, I don't think the price tag is so much as a big deal. It's just how much you personally enjoy the car. Like my fiance, she loves this Corolla. I'm not a real big fan, but I'm 6'1" and I don't necessarily fit real well in the Corolla, but she loves the Corolla. And like I love trucks. A lot of people around here love trucks. It's Alabama, obviously, but you know, a lot of people that just don't like trucks. And you know what? Nobody can judge the other for that. It's like the big rivalry between lifted trucks and tuner cars. I love them both personally, but you know, they'll be talking shit about each other online, and it's just like you just have to respect that that's what that person enjoys, and it's not what you enjoy. So you can't just hate it. I mean, you don't have to necessarily like their car, but you can't just hate on them because it is what they like, if you know what I'm saying. And that's just my personal opinion on the matter. But anyway, guys, that's all for this video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and as always, have a wonderful day.